Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Database Management Systems course, and this is the lecture video for week number 11 and 12 on the week of March 29th, and all the assignments that are being assigned will be due on April 17th. I am sharing with you the week 11 and 12 material in Blackboard. As usual, there is the list of objectives, which we will talk about the security, authentications, and server connections, and so on and so forth. Here is a list of the instructional material, including the lesson plan and the lecture video, which I will post as soon as I'm finished. And here is a list of sample projects for the course project that we mentioned last time. There's chapter 6 that we'll be referencing from MCSA and the PowerPoint that goes along with it. And there is a typo for the lab activities that I'm assigning, so make sure you take a note of that, which will also be included in the lesson plan. For the lab activities, we only have one set of assignment. So I'm assigning from the MCSA textbook activities 6-1, 6-2, and 6-3. Do 3 of them and just take the screenshots accordingly and submit in one assignment. Okay. If you download this lesson plan, you'll get the lesson plan that I have it right here. So let me make that a little bit bigger. So I will go over that with you now. So I just mentioned to you about we'll be doing chapter 6 from the MCSA. So goal for this week is to understand just different ways that you can manage the SQL Server security and begin to work on your course project. Last week, you shared an idea of what you want to do, and so as you are, you're not locked into that, but as you begin to think about what you want to do, I posted the sample project, so you can look at that a little bit later. As I mentioned to you, there are 3 labs that I'm assigning activities from this textbook, so I'll talk about them a little bit later. For the sample projects, let's take a quick look at it. So if you click on this, here's the sample project that you can take a look. As you can see, so there's one of them. So let's see. So you don't have to have a table of content. I think this person just went above and beyond, but I need a little description of what you want to do, what you want to accomplish, and then list of tables. And then I'd like you to design the tables and its relationships using the Lucidchart. Take a screenshot and then put them in here. It tells you how they're related, list of the table names, the column names, and the data types, and whether they have a primary key and foreign keys. And then the SQL script to using the Lucidchart export. This will create for you. And then some fake data that you'll be using for the for the person table. You can make up your random information about that. You want to have at least several rows. Definitely more than 3 because you're going to be referencing and try to verify if it is actually working. 6 is plenty. And then here's the rest of the tables and its attributes. And you need a SQL script to add those records to each tables. And any custom definitions if you want to do that. We didn't talk about the stored procedure definitions, but If you want to, you can do that. And modify table definitions. Let's see here. Here's the script to actually put them in. You can test it out in the SQL Fiddle screen platform. Put the scripts here for the creating the tables, and you can insert them. All those insert statements, you can put them on the right side. So after you build a schema, you can run this SQL script to put them in, right? And then make sure that they work out okay. And then you want to put all the scripts into the SQL database server. You will probably want to create a database first, and then put it on the, have a new query, and then put all the scripts there, and you can run them, and it'll create those tables and the relationships for you, and you can verify those data by issuing some select statements, and you can take some screenshots of that, and then you should be done. Okay, so that's one, and you can look at some other ones. This one's a little bit more simplified. You can kind of look through that. There's certainly the first one was just a lot more than what was asked, right? And you can look at the third one, and so hopefully they'll give you some ideas. Okay, all right. So that's about the project material. So in terms of today's this 11 and 12 weeks topic of security, security in all aspects of database, or maybe not even just database, just overall IT, or even not even an IT, just any kind of access in terms of security has become very important and wide encompassing in our everyday lives. Whether you are working as a student, a staff, a corporation, hospitals, or wherever, right? So certainly for the database, it is important, and it's becoming more important as the years go by. We have a general concept of authenticating a user, and we typically use an ID and a password. And we also use a multi-factor whenever possible to authenticate, make it stronger. We also leverage a role-based access. Just because you have you're able to get in to the database based on your role, you'll be able to access only certain schemas or the tables or certain records, or maybe not even tables, but maybe some views. And then based on where you're located, you can have some implications on what and how and when you can access, right? Who should have what access? Business rules for who should have access to what level is usually decided by your organization, and you as a database administrator simply implement that in terms of the 3 exercises that you're going to be doing, which I'll talk about a little bit more a little later. We also have what's called a proxy access, and that is used a lot in a lot of the applications when supervisor wants to access another person's login as another person, then you can have a proxy access, and that too, or when you're testing, you want to be able to proxy as a faculty or as a student or staff or just a community user or whatever, right? So you can set up these proxies and have some rules as to who can access, have those proxy access, and even set limits to the times and the periods, right? And so But then, just as important as who could have access, there needs to be some conversation about when to terminate that access or put them on hold. Maybe as an onboarding process, you grant those accesses accordingly. But as a offboarding process, you also want to make sure that uh, the access is terminated accurately and promptly, right? But and a lot of times it is just a termination completely altogether. But some of the offboarding needs to be customized. Like for example, if you're a student and you have a student access to the um, school learning management system, like a banner system or something. And when you graduate, you may not have access to all your courses, but you should have some access, like your transcripts, or maybe if you're a student worker, then you should have access to W-2s and things like that. So they shouldn't terminate everything, but rather they should customize, right? So this access is not a blanket statement, but what kind of an access and how much and how long and things like that should be discussed. Um, but now let me kind of talk about your lab activities. So there are several typos that I found in the textbook, so I wanted to highlight that for you. So on page 202, when you're doing the lab 6-1, on step number 7, there is this is okay, right here, a COMPL, there should be E before 3, right? So just like that. So make sure that you make a note of that. Same thing on page 212. When you're doing lab 6-3, there is a complex, and this E is also missing, right? So it doesn't. I just need to be consistent. I mean, it doesn't really matter what this code is, but you just need to be consistent in the exercises. So since they started out with the complex with the E in the beginning, that's why I'm making these corrections. So for 6-1 lab exercise, let me see if I can kind of get over there. So here's the managing SQL Server logins. This is definitely one way that you can manage the security. So like here in this activity, you will change the different password policies. So we're talking about having a different policies for Windows account, and the SQL Server logins. Because when you log into the SQL Server, you can log in as a Windows users, or you can authenticate them using Windows account or SQL Server account, right? And you'll create new Windows accounts and groups on the local operating system on your computer and map those SQL Server logins. So you can have different policies to enforce complex passwords and how often they need to be changed and so on and so forth. So this will definitely will be used a lot. Okay. And then for 6-2, configuring the SQL using SSL. Let's see. So in this exercise, so here in this slide, you'll be using a SQL Server Configuration Manager to configure the account that you created instance to use the SSL encryption, right, to make the connection secure. SSL is a secure socket layer, and it's the protocol that we want to leverage. And basically, this encryption allows to set up a private a channel over the public internet so that it'll be secure, right? So you'll be learning to how to use the SSL certificate, right? So that should take you through the good exercise. And then for the 6-3, up over there. So in this lab, you'll learn to use the to manage the user permissions using the Object Explorer view, right? In the studio, you manage the logins, create and map the new users. You get to create new roles and manage the membership because you're going to create the roles, and then after you create a user, put them in the roles and grant permissions accordingly. So this is the way it is typically done. We don't give a user permission, but rather we give a role permission. So if you are a student, then by definition, and you belong to a student role, then you have the all the permissions and privileges and accesses that are granted as a student. We don't give, it's not best practice for DBA or organization to give, a user like a John Doe, a specific user. Although there are exceptions to that, that is not best practice. So we create different roles, like a student, a staff, or faculty, or visitor, auditor, and things like that. And then when we create a user, we put the user into those roles. And a user can be in multiple roles, right? For example, you could be a student, and you can also be a worker or staff. You can also be a faculty at the same time, right? Because if you're faculty and you're, let's say, you're faculty in the computer science department, but you are taking courses in, let's say, art history or something, right? Then you're a student, right? And then if you work as some other capacity, maybe as a dean, or maybe as a HR support person or registrar or something, then you're staff, right? So you can be a member of different roles, and so this will be very useful for you as learning how to give role access, right? The rest of the the lesson plan material, I just kind of kept it on there. So if they are useful for you, use it. If not, then no biggie. I don't know why I kept it here, but I thought this was kind of useful, so I didn't want to get rid of it. All right. So hopefully that gives you a good overview of what we're doing this week, week 11 and 12, and what it is all about. So, all right, let me kind of go back to the content here. We talked about the objectives here, and we looked at the lesson plan. I showed you briefly a list of the sample projects and the lab activities in terms of the typos and what they're about. So that's pretty much it for these 2 weeks. Hopefully everything's going okay. The weather is going really nice, so hope you get a chance to enjoy outside. Otherwise, have a great week, and look forward to receiving your work. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. All right, take care. Bye-bye.